In Arlington, Virginia, Palestinian Muhammad Eid prepares for his internship with the UN Relief and Works Agency known as UNRWA, while pursuing a graduate degree here. For the 28-year-old, this is a far cry from home.
I grew up in Rafah refugee camp in Gaza Strip. My family, they came from the north. They were displaced in 1948, and they were displaced to the south, to Gaza Strip, and that's where they grew up, and I was born. Everything I am now is because of this aid I have received at a very critical period in my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it so far.
Muhammad is a recipient of the UNRWA program that has supported generations of Palestinians living in refugee camps in the Middle East. Assistance now in jeopardy as the U.S. ends its funding.
You start cutting UNRWA services in things like education, healthcare, and food, it's very hard to see how these people can go on.
We're not cutting aid to the Palestinians, we're cutting aid to UNRWA. And there's a big difference. UNRWA has, it's a concern because UNRWA is not serving Palestinians. UNRWA is a political arm that claims to serve Palestinians.
UNRWA is first and foremost a humanitarian organization providing these services to people, but what it also contributes is stability to the region.
The U.S. cut to UNRWA is not the first UN program targeted by Washington, but one in a series of U.S. pullbacks that have roiled UN officials and worried diplomats.
Relations between the Trump administration and the UN are pretty poor. We've seen Trump pulling back from a growing number of multilateral agreements, most notably the Iran nuclear deal, and also pulling out of the Human Rights Council. So the US is disconnecting itself from the UN on many significant issues.
The U.S. has also pushed for cuts to UN and peacekeeping budgets, exited UNESCO, withdrawn from the Paris Climate Deal and the Global Compact on Migration, and against the wishes of a majority of nations, recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moved its embassy there.
The UN and some countries may disagree with these U.S. decisions, but the Trump administration's defense of American interests and criticism of the UN may not be entirely unfounded. Other experts have bemoaned the excesses and abuses within UN agencies and have called for reforms. But in taking these drastic steps, has Washington gone too far?
I think that the UN is holding together reasonably well, and you actually see European powers and countries like China stepping up to fill some of the leadership void that the US is creating. But if the US continues to cut its funding to the UN, if the US undermines the political credibility of the UN on big issues like peace in the Middle East, then the organization will struggle.
The fear is that a retreating U.S. and a struggling UN could cause irreparable damage, especially on the ground where its work is needed most, in places already volatile and vulnerable. Liling Tan, CGTN, New York.